I'm joined by Chris Mitchell in our Jerusalem bureau. How you doing today, Chris?
Good, Billy. Although it's been a bad start to the day, just after 7 o'clock is when the first bombing took place.
Well, let's dig right into that. There were two bombings, really sort of shocking to wake up to here in the States. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, there were two bombings, one at 7:06 a.m. at a bus stop just at the entrance of Jerusalem. And then about 7:30, there was another bombing at a place called Remote, just outside the city limits, not very far away, actually, from the first bombing. Both bombings were remote controlled. And is really, as I think the chief of public security said, the kind of organization and kind of sophistication we haven't seen in many years. For those of us who lived through what's called the Second Intifada from 2000 to 2004, these kind of bombings were on a regular occurrence, tragically, where about 1,000 Israelis died during that time. But this is something that Israelis dreaded to see again, and hopefully there won't be many more of these.
Now, the impact of this, as far as we know, at least one person has died. I know there are some serious injuries,
right,
and 18 at least injured. Is that correct?
I think actually a little more, Billy. I think just over 20, 22, the latest figure that I heard. The person that died was a 16-year-old yeshiva student, a young boy. His funeral was actually earlier today. You know, in the Jewish tradition, they bury one before sundown if they can. So he's already been buried, and hundreds gathered around his funeral and mourned his loss. Very tragic. A 16-year-old boy. That's very hard to take.
It is, and very, very tragic. And how are people reacting to this? Because as you mentioned, this hasn't been seen in quite a while, this sort of sophistication. But an event like this, when you have two bombings, how are they reacting, the public?
Well, and in several ways, Billy. I would think, first of all, life goes back to normal. Route 1, which is the main road coming into Jerusalem, was closed for several hours because it happened just at Route 1, at the beginning of Route 1 as it comes into Jerusalem. Life returns to normal. And on the other hand, I think people, have this sense of anxiety. Of maybe, what will be, maybe these attacks may carry on, God forbid, maybe a little more sensitivity when you're outside. If you see a package, make sure that you either stay away from it or alert the police if it looks suspicious. That's something that the police are advising the public right now. So in a number of ways, and Billy, it also comes at a very important time for the coalition government that Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to form right now. And actually, it might accelerate the coalition hearings that are going on to get a government together. Part of the government, many of the voters here in Israel voted for a more right-wing government because they felt unsafe for the last several months, probably at least since May, and they want probably a more robust response to many of the terror attacks that have gone on since May.
So that could actually exacerbate that, as you were saying, because obviously this is an event that is going to make people feel even less safe. One of the things that has come up in reports, and I'd love for you to shed some light on this, in increasing tensions between Palestinians and Israelis in recent months. Is that an accurate depiction? There have been some sort of ties to that and some questions as to whether or not this event is related to that.
I think so. I mean, I think, as I mentioned, since May, about Ramadan earlier this year, that's when a sort of a wave of terror attacks began to go throughout Israel, here in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv. 29, now probably 30 people have died during those terror attacks, a variety of terror attacks, whether it's shootings or bombings like this. So I think there is increased tension between Israelis and Palestinians during this period. There has been the rise of one particular group in the Palestinians called the Young Lions that really are not affiliated necessarily with the Palestinian Authority or Hamas, but they're very bold and very open about what they want to do in terms of attacking Israelis. So I think there is an element of that there is increased tension between Palestinians and Israelis in the last several months.
What does security look like on the day-to-day in a place like Jerusalem, especially when compared to, let's say, America, a normal city in America?
Well, for example, if you go into a movie theater, they're going to check your trunk to make sure there's no explosives or a bomb. Now, it has decreased dramatically since the Second Intifada. That was, as I said, about a 4-year period of numerous terror attacks. When you went into a restaurant, you had to get through a security check. But you wouldn't notice necessarily all these security checks going on right now. Life looks normal. People are walking on the streets, driving on the bus or cars. So it looks fairly normal on the outside, but on the underneath, there is that danger of a terror attack that may come at any moment and in any place, and that's sort of the would make Israelis or anyone here a little more alert to what may happen.
Well, and that's understandable in light of what we've seen today. Chris Mitchell will continue to check in with you. Appreciate you coming on today.
Great to be with you, Billy.